In Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, he talks about an instant shift that he made into a state of consciousness that he then remained in after that. He went from complete despair, completely giving up, to utter enlightenment, what I might call bubble love, basically what we're all after. And so when you look at this from a certain place, it can be a little bit annoying. Like, okay, why did this happen? And how can I get it to happen to me? But the fact that it happened to anyone, even if it happens one time, it means that it can happen to you as well. So that's something that we have to look at very seriously. And I have. So in this video, I'm going to break up the steps as far as like what is required in order to make a shift like this. You're already shifting all the time. And the idea behind it is just to know what you're getting into, to be able to believe in it right now as much as you're able to, and then follow the breadcrumbs to it. It doesn't have to take very long. Like, we're actually talking about being able to make a big shift very, very quickly. And it can happen. So by the end of this video, I'm going to kind of break it down. These are not going to be things that you think are very novel. The difference is going to be where you're putting your attention. Are you putting your attention on the content in a way like you believe that you can achieve this for yourself? Are you taking it personally and seriously for yourself? Because I think that's what happens with a lot of people who are looking for a shift like this. There's a difference between kind of like looking at it from afar, like, oh, that's for someone else, versus really communing with the information and taking it seriously. Like, that's the difference between looking at it versus embodiment. And if we're looking at something from a place of, maybe this isn't the right word, but I'm going to say like jealousy, or if we're looking at it from a place of resistance, then you're separating yourself from that shift. So that's number one, is you kind of have to look at the information in a way where you yourself are softened. So you're choosing to like soften yourself to the information and take it in, so that you're able to actually experience a shift in that moment. So the shift that you're looking for is now, right? So I'm just saying, like, feel yourself into a non-resistant state as you're interacting with the information. And then you're going to find that you can shift really quickly. And the interesting thing about this shifting is you kind of just like wake up in a different place. Like in the book, he literally recognized that there was two different people talking inside his head. So, because he said, like, I can't live with myself anymore, right? So he's like, who's the person who's saying I, right? There's an I, and then there's myself. So there seems to be like two different viewpoints and two different like people having a conversation. But then he came to the conclusion, maybe only one of them is real. And he literally, like, I don't know, went to sleep. He says he woke up. Suddenly he wakes up and he's in this different world. A world that he's never heard of, never been to before, like the sound of a bird. he said it was something he's never heard anything like that before. And actually, when you wake up in bubble love, when you wake up in one of these supernatural states like he described, you do experience life entirely differently because it is a completely different reality that you're in. It's a completely different perspective. So how could you not experience that differently, right? So that's where the idea of kind of softening and letting, like allowing a shift to occur as opposed to resisting it is a really big deal. This is something that if you're learning how to meditate, you're learning how to soften that resistance as opposed to just like keeping something that is foreign to you away, right? If you're looking for a shift, you actually want to invite that without being afraid, without tensing up, without interpreting that something is foreign or that something can potentially hurt you. That's where this shift point is at. So I experienced something very, very similar to what he is describing here, where there's like, you begin to realize, or you realize that, oh, there's two things going on here, but that doesn't make sense, right? And you kind of condense it back into one. But I experienced it a little bit differently than him, or my interpretation was different. And that's true for all of us. Like different words might hit home differently for you. So I interpret this as the distinction between separation versus oneness. And this is, like I said, this is not news. This is not a novel idea. This is all like things that we've heard before. But especially, if you're someone who's been studying for a while and you're like, oh my gosh, I know everything. I've heard everything. Like, where's the shift? How come I can't embody this and just have what I want, right? And that's a really interesting thing, knowing that it's not about what you know here in the ego or in the mind. It's about your response to it that allows you to actually shift. So you can hear the words, oneness versus separation and you can say like, I get it. And you can still experience like a portion of you in your mind that gets that versus the rest of you who's not actually embodying that. So here's what it is. If you want to actually just manifest what you want and allow it all to be automatic and already experienced by you, already known to you, entering a state of oneness would accomplish that. Because as we know, everything is already one thing. So you are projecting your reality with your perspective about it. So imagine if you really, really understood that. What would that look like in practice? That that everything is a projection of you. You're projecting your reality onto the screen of space. You're seeing yourself playing out. You're seeing your belief systems. You're seeing the way that you label things. That's what's animating everything. That's all that's happening. So if you really, really know this, you stop perceiving opposition. You know that nothing can oppose you. Nothing can actually hurt you. Because everything is going to do what you say it's going to do. Everything is going to do what you know it's going to do. So you can literally live inside this awareness or this consciousness where there aren't two voices in your head, right? There's not an ego running around like a chicken with its head cut off saying all these things, and then you being afraid in the corner because you're like afraid of everything that you're seeing, because everything you're interpreting that there's a world outside of you and you're afraid of it. There's only one. There's only one awareness. There's only one voice in your head. There's only one perspective. And accomplishing this, there's a road to accomplishing this. You can experience this as quickly or not as you want. You can take your time with it or not. The road to this looks like just gaining the ability to be aware of what you're feeling and thinking. And then it looks like when the ego is talking, when there's fears or beliefs that are coming up, or you're seeing or feeling or thinking things in your mind that are unpleasant to you, don't be afraid of them. You don't give them your energy. You don't react to them. You're looking at it. You're not in the tornado. You're looking at it. You're knowing. It's just in your head. So you're practicing. That's practicing oneness already. Knowing that there's nothing to be afraid of. You're just afraid of a voice in your head. This is where you begin to transcend circumstantial reality and bend circumstantial reality. Because if you're identified with an egoic character who the ego is one with the circumstantial reality, one with the outside, if you're in a separation mindset, right? So the ego would say, oh no, this is real. These circumstances are happening. These circumstances are real. But when you can simply look, you the observer, who you are is the eternal observer. You're not the ego. You're not the voices in your head. You're not even your feelings. There's a creator God essence, a universal cosmic essence, eternal you that cannot be destroyed, observer who can see everything. This gives you the ability to buy into the ego or not. It gives you the ability to make a decision about what you're observing. The decision about what you're observing determines what comes next, determines what is formed on the screen of space and reality, what actually happens versus what doesn't. So if you're here, you yourself have observed that you've created things in your life, that everything happens as you thought that it would, or as you feared that it would. You've witnessed yourself doing this, but you're just trying to get a handle on how are you doing this. So when you're in the throes of like an emotion, a negative emotion, when you're witnessing yourself, the character, the avatar, experiencing fear or dread or whatever it is, experiencing separation, this is your opportunity to observe what is coming up. What is the thing that you're saying that you're afraid of? The words that are going through your mind at that time will reveal the belief that you are reinforcing. If you're able to look at that and find that, because if you're not able to look at it and find it, that means that you're just believing it, that it's real. Like there's no option for you to like, oh, well, let me look at what I believe here, because you're buying into it, you're believing it. So you're like, you're not going to question gravity if you are not ready to do that, right? So you have to be ready to like question your reality. So when an emotion comes up that's negative, that's when you're going to hear the voice in your head who's talking that's going to outline the negative belief for you. And this is when you have the option to continue buying into it or not. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter the experience that you're having. You can become aware of what you're saying And you can measure that up against another belief, like you can manifest in your reality whatever it is that you want. There's no limits, right? I live in a reality where there's no limits to what I can manifest. Everything is just a animation of me, a manifestation of me. Everything is me pushed out. So I can change my belief and my reality will change. So if this voice in your head is saying, or if you're finding a belief in your head that is saying, this person doesn't like me, or this person, for some reason doesn't want to be with me or contact me, whatever it is, or if there's any lack, whatever it is, you can look at that and be like, oh, that's what I'm telling myself. That's why I'm feeling bad, because I'm telling myself this. So I'm going to choose right now not to believe that anymore. Now, that's what to do when you're like met with a situation. But if you want to just make manifesting in general automatic, and you can create like a blanket understanding, a blanket shift within yourself that covers everything, so that you don't have to you're not going to have these little things coming up anymore that you have to like correct, because that's arduous. We don't have to do that, right? So just become aware that anytime that you decide to be afraid of something, anytime that you decide to be upset with something, anytime that you decide to feel threatened by something, whatever negative emotions point to your limiting beliefs. So all the things that you are feeling negatively about are the places where you are embodying this idea of separation, that something else is somehow outside of you and can harm or affect you in some way, or that there's like simply not enough, that your reality is not supporting you. You exist because you are supported. You would not be able to exist otherwise. And even if you're having negative thoughts, you're supported in that. They play out as you think them. And it's not because reality is doing what it's doing and you're just observing it. It's the opposite. It just takes some awareness for you to wise up to this and choose to believe this so that you can see it for yourself. So you have to if you're like in a place where you're feeling negatively, you have to begin to lead in your perspective. You have to say, no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what I'm thinking, no matter what I'm seeing, I'm going to choose not to believe in this anyway. I'm going to choose to go first. Because if you create your reality, then what comes first? You pick up the paintbrush first. You draw first. So let me give you a metaphor here. If you're molding clay and you're in front of your piece of clay because you're just getting started, it's not going to look the way that you want it to look. But when you're in this position of molding clay, you do not care, because you know that the clay is there for you to mold to your liking. So it doesn't intimidate you. It actually is kind of exciting. Ooh, we're going to mold clay. So when you are aligned with and embodying and believing in oneness perspective, you are not intimidated by anything that doesn't look the way that you want it to look. In fact, when you know that your thoughts create your reality and that it's going to do and be whatever you say, and it's as simple and easy as that, when things don't quite look exactly the way you want them to look, it's kind of thrilling. It's kind of exciting, because you know that it's going to shape up to look exactly the way that you want it to look. And that knowledge is exciting. Like, oh, so you're met with a person who like, oh, I don't believe in love, or I've never been in love, or yeah, right, blah, blah, blah. They're like opposing you And you're like coming from this oneness perspective because you know that you create your reality and that your reality cannot possibly disagree with you, that that's not the way reality works. You're going to be so kind of just like, I got a secret, and that is so exciting that you don't agree, because you're going to, because you have to. If that's not your experience, you don't know that you create your reality. You're not coming from a oneness perspective. You're not believing in this whole manifestation process, or whatever you want to call it. I don't care if you call it law of assumption. I don't care what you call it. Even on a scientific level nowadays, it is not a secret that consciousness creates reality. Anybody who's really, really, really looked into it has come to that conclusion. So aligning with this oneness perspective so that you can automatically manifest what you want instantly without any effort. It comes down to you choosing to become aware of the ego, the avatar, the thoughts in your mind that are not aligned with that perspective. And you, the observer, would have to be aware of that misalignment, and you would have to choose not to believe that anymore. You would choose to believe, like, you would choose to say that whatever that thought is, like, doesn't have any credence. Like, it doesn't mean anything. We're not going to pay any attention to that, right? So you disregard whatever it is that's not aligned with oneness. So I'm not saying you have to change it or make it disappear. You can change it if you like to. You can't, whatever you want to do. But I'm saying you don't have to fight with it in any way. You just know it's not real. It doesn't create, right? And then you choose to align with oneness. Whatever belief, idea, perspective, whatever is in alignment with this knowing that you create your own reality. Now, when you do this, you are going to feel differently. So I am not saying that feeling differently changes your reality, because if you try to make yourself feel differently because you think that's going to yield a different result for you, that's kind of, you might be able to manifest some things that way, but you're always going to feel like you're struggling. You're always going to feel like it's, you're a slave to your emotions, or you're a slave to trying to maintain a state. And that's not something that you can keep up forever, because any struggle that you're experiencing in your reality, it indicates that you don't believe in oneness. So it's highlighting this like fundamental belief system that you're operating from that is still an idea of separation. So like, you are not trying to change something in your reality that isn't panning out. That is not the perspective that we're coming from here. If you have the perspective that, where's the guy? Okay. If you have the perspective that this guy is not doing what I want and I need to make him do what I want because he's not doing what I want, first of all, you're saying that he's somehow separate from you and you have to do something about that. When you understand oneness, there's no more struggle. When you're operating from oneness, when you are embodying oneness, there is no more struggle. Because you understand that the moment, you understand it's already the way that you want it to be. This has nothing to do with a circumstance playing out. This has to do with you understanding that when you understand that there is no more struggle, because everything can only come from you and you are not struggling anymore, you know that it can only go your way from here on because that's what you're knowing. If I know that I create my reality and I know it's only going to go my way from here on, and that's all reality, the only option reality has, that's it. Yeah. So you don't wonder what's going to happen. You don't try to figure out how to make things go the way that you want them to go. You just know that it inevitably will be whatever you project onto it. So the most powerful way that we manifest without even realizing it, here's what you do. When you manifest without even realizing it, here's how it goes. You see a thing and you make a judgment or a determination about that thing. You're like, this thing is this, and this thing is going to do this. Right? Obviously, this is going to happen. You project a story, whether you realize it or not. So when you come into this, when you catch yourself in a state, or your ego or your thoughts or your character, your avatar, when you catch all of the thoughts that are aligned with separation, this idea that there is separateness, and you catch yourself thinking in terms of opposition, you catch yourself being afraid, you catch, well, not yourself, you catch the avatar, the ego, like creating problems, you're just going to disidentify with that and no longer entertain that stuff anymore. Because if you're the only one here and everything else is you also, what is there to fight with and what is there to be afraid of? Everything is you. And so when you come into this oneness perspective and align with it, you start naturally being very, very grateful and happy, naturally, because all threat is gone. You're interpreting reality in a friendly way, in a harmonious way. You know that you're supported because you know how you would support yourself. You know how you would be in your own corner. You know that all the lengths that you would go to for yourself. There's only love and harmony now. So you can only have a good expectation. Now, this is where you're going to notice that feeling good, feeling harmony, feeling safe, feeling love, feeling gratitude happens completely automatically and on its own. It happens naturally. You can experience a dramatic shift within one day, or like sometimes, okay, so a dramatic shift, yeah, it can happen a few different ways. So sometimes you basically it takes, the shift happens, right? But then it takes you like a few days maybe to kind of catch up with your own new train of thought. Like you start to notice how you feel differently. You start to notice how you're thinking differently. And you get to kind of catch on that way and get yourself caught up to this shift that has occurred. So it can happen dramatically, more quickly and dramatically, like what Eckhart Tolle experienced. And I think that it happened that way for him because he wasn't, like, as far as I know from the book, he wasn't knowledgeable when it comes to spiritual stuff. So he didn't have a lot of awareness, I think, before that. But it doesn't really matter how it happens. The point is that you're just looking for a shift between oneness versus the separation identity, the separation consciousness. And that solves all of your issues that you're creating, because you are creating it all. There's nobody else, nothing else to be different from you, to offer something that you're not creating. You know what I mean? Like there is no other. So you end the war within yourself by aligning with this idea of oneness. In your consciousness, you stop fighting with yourself. You stop being afraid. You stop entertaining these arguments or scenarios that suck. You stop entertaining your own ideas of rejection. You stop thinking negatively about yourself, and you stop thinking negatively about other. That's huge. So every thought that you experience creates an entire reality. Because let's say that I have a negative thought about this person. Well, if I have a negative thought about them, like they can reject me, then I've just created a reality where I'm being rejected. So that decreases my worth and my value. Now there is a reality that I am experiencing as I'm thinking this thought and entertaining this thought, where I'm not as valuable as a person. You can't do one without the other. But you can shift very quickly and stop doing those things to yourself. And you can create very, very dramatic shifts very, very quickly. I think if you are very, very close to creating a shift like this, you're going to know it because you're on the brink of it. You're chasing it. You're here, you're listening, you're watching. You're like, there's something here. Like, you're here for a reason. Just know it's going to click for you. Just know that these instant things, it's already there. It's already real. You're here because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And you don't make it happen. You simply wake up there and you will experience that shift. The best thing about it is that you don't have to make things happen anymore. You don't have to put work and effort in. Everything is automatically reinforcing itself because you solved the fundamental underlying belief. So just the same way that negativity was perpetuating itself in your life, it's like, I don't even have to, it just happens automatically. These things are happening all by themselves. And there's nothing I can do about it. No matter what, it just reinforces itself. Right. There's also a positive cycle to that. There's a virtuous cycle that reinforces itself. And now you're on that side of reality. And that is the best place to be. So if you feel like you're on the verge of this and maybe just having a little session with, like one session with me would put you over that edge, I put a link down below. I made some space in my calendar. I put a link down below for anyone who wants to have just one session with me. And if you would like to reinforce this and learn more about how to do this, you can also join my community called SuperLife. I have a couple of options there. We go live like at least twice a week in tier 1, more in tier 3. And in tier 3, there's obviously more proximity to me. So comment down below. Let me know like how you understood this or how you're experiencing this in your life or how you can relate to this. I know that each and every one of you can experience a dramatic shift. If you like this video, make sure that you click the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.